Okay. All right. So I was trying to walk through everything, but then I'll just skip to some of the most important things you need. So one thing you need is the databases. So if you're going to use a database in there, you would need to set a database. The database holds the credentials, it holds the user authentication records and all that. So you would need to use a database. It's advisable to either use a Postgres, which is able to support the geospatial properties, and also, or you can also use MySQL, depending on what you prefer. Yes. So the static URL is going to hold your static files, which you need if you are going to deploy anything in the form of a CSS or a JavaScript, any of that. Then inside the URLs file, so URLs.py file, that is where you have all your URLs to your website. So currently we have a URL in there called admin. So if we go into our browser and add the only URL we have there, which is admin, it will take us to the Django admin page. So that's the admin page for the Django. And then for us to be able to access this, we need to create a user account in here, a super user account to be able to access this. And before we can also do that, we need to run migrations, because if we look at our scripts initially, it tells us that we haven't been able to run the migrations. So your project might not work properly until you apply the migrations for admin or content type and then sessions. And to run that, you just need the command python manage py migrate, and that will migrate all your files to your database. So we can do that now. So let me navigate into the Geoportal folder. Then we do a python manage py migrate. And that gives us all our migration files in the database. The next thing we would want to do is to start up an app. So for Django, mostly every application we create, we call them an app. So an app inside the Django project itself. So I would like to create an app called the map interface. So I can do the command python manage py start app, and then the name of my app, which is map. You can rename this to any, depending on if it's API, you can just do it start app API, and then your APIs will go in there. If it's, let's say, home, you can just do home. So you can try doing, let's do the app, or let's do home first, then we'll do the map interface. So home. And this is similar to what we do in the Shackle portal and then the Galamsey portal. So um, so for us, we've integrated all our apps into one Django project. So in here, we have all our apps in one Django project, which we use Docker to run. So when you go into our app folder, we have the Charcoal app, we have the Galamsey app, we have the Home app, the LandSense Landscape GH app, the Root app, and then the Severe Portals app. So the Severe Portals app is the root of our project, which has our settings.py. But like I said, you are not supposed to put your production key in the public, like in the GitHub. So you notice most of our secret keys and debug configs and all that are hidden in environment variables that are not public to everyone. So our database configurations are all in the with our AWS and all that, together with the GeoServer URLs, and then also the GE credentials if you are going to use GE. If you are going to use emails too. So that's why I said the settings is the most important. Then from there, you have other apps like the URLs like this, which contains all the URLs to all other apps too. Yes. So it's similar. So just like how we have our home app, we've created a similar thing here. So first thing we have to do for this now is we need to create a file in here called urls.py. So just as we have the urls.py here for the URLs for the whole project, we need to create a urls.py that will link our project, which is our GeoPortal, to the home page. So we come in here, right click, create a new file in the root of the home and name it url.py. For this, you can just come in. You need the path. That is one thing you need. You need the path, and then you will need the view. So Gideon explained earlier when we were having the presentation that I think I can still pull up the presentation. Let me try and do that. Yes. So he said we have the model, we have the view, and then we have the template. And then the view is what holds the codes. So when the URL, when you hit the URL comes to the view, and the view is what takes the model and the templates, merge the two of them together, and then outputs them to you. So from the user hitting the Django app, the entry point will be the URL for the Django app. Then the URL will pick up the view, and the view will contain the model and then the template. Okay. So go through. So in here, we do from I think it's Django. Entry. Is it Django the URL or Django the entry? Django the URL. Django the URLs. Import path. Then say URL pattern equal to an array of URL objects. So the path would be either the home. So we can do this. No, let's do this. And say let me type everything out and then I'll explain. Okay. All right. So let's go through what I just did. So like I explained, the entry point of the app comes in through the URL. So here we say the URL should be empty space. So that basically it should be the forward slash. So in the forward slash, we want to include URLs, and this can be done in multiple ways. Just as we see here, we have the admin.site, the URLs. We can have a similar thing here. So the first entry points would be the URL. From the URL, let me do this. Do it from here. Do it from home. From its URL. Let's this. Wait, how do you go? Okay. do the same thing. Yes. Then we call the views. And the views we call the index. Okay. So the entry point is the view. And when you look at the files we have here, we have the views, the URL, which is coming from the Geo portal. So that's where the entry point is. Then from that, we move to the views.py. So the views.py is supposed to take what the URL is bringing and then give us an output from that. So with this line of code from line 19, we go from the home app, we want to import the views.py. So from home, import views.py. And in our views.py, we have the Django shortcuts, we have a render, and then the imports. So we have the from Django.http, import the HTTP response. So we want to respond something. This time you're not responding a template or a view, a model. You are responding with an HTTP response with a text in it. And then there are many ways of writing the Django views. We prefer to use the Django um, function views, which is the definition of the function, just like we have in Python. We have the index, which is the name of the function, which we have here, index. And then in there, we take a request, and the request object is required every time you are using an HTTP. So once you take in the request, you can return something, which is the HTTP response, which you return as this is the home page from the views. And notice every time I save, the server automatically refreshes since it has this state reloader checking. And then when we go into our browser to go and have a look, we need to refresh manually though. So this is the home page from the view. Okay. I think I've said a lot of things at the same time. If there is a question, please let me know before I proceed to add more to it. Do I need to take it again? Hello?
Hi, Emmanuel. So how we get the home view, especially for the view and so on. You know, for example, when we create here, we do have those scripts direct automatically generated. So maybe do I miss something or?
Okay.
This is what I want to say. This is what I want to say too. Because when we take this folder for day two, in the geo portal that you have as folder, inside it, you have some Python extension file. So you have URL, you have the VSGE, ASGE, all this information inside of the file, what they come from, and what is the importance for the first one, the second one, the setting. For example, click on the setting, we are going to see what is inside it. So here we have like some script. So we have a URL, okay, all this information. You can
Yes,
expand.
it generates whatever name you created. So let me click this so that we are all on the same page. So this is what we all had, right?
Yeah.
Once you run it, you have this. So I was trying to explain this earlier, that the initial file is to just indicate that this is a Python package. And then the next file, the ASGI, is just for production. So if you want to deploy it as asynchronous, which is another topic on its own. So asynchronous development, you use the ASGI. And if you want to use the synchronous development, you use the WSGI. So these two files you don't really play around with, because whatever development platform you are going to use to deploy will handle whether you use the WSGI or the ASGI. The two files we need to know right now for development is the settings.py and then the URLs.py, which would look like this for
Okay.
us. This is how it looks like for us currently.
Okay.
So, and we said from the presentation we gave earlier that the entry point for the Django application is the URL. So just like we have here, you go straight to the /, you open a website, you hit enter, it gives you this. So this is the default URL because there is nothing attached to it. And I even give a demonstration that because the entry point is the URL, the second thing, the only URL you can see in here, besides the empty URL aside the port, is admin,
Okay.
which is this. And if you put in /admin, notice it gives you the Django admin site. Anything besides that will be defined as an error.
Okay.
Trying to use Mac to copy and paste. It's a little confusing, but so let's say I put in test. Since test doesn't exist, you notice it says URL configuration defined in geoportals. The URL is that, which is just one, the admin. The current part test doesn't match any of these. So any URL you have in your page would appear here. And then to get the URL to appear, I said we should let's try creating a separate app called the home.
Okay.
And to create an app, you need the command python manage.py start app, and then the name of the app, which we said home, right? So home.
Okay.
And that will generate the home app for us in a new folder. And notice it has almost the same files. So it has a
Okay.
initial file. It has the views now. It doesn't have a URL, but it has the model. And we said earlier, we have the models which Django uses in collaboration with the view, and then the URL. So if you want for easy sharing of the applications, because mind you, I can just take this whole app, this home app, copy it from here, put it in a new Django application, and automatically it will work.
Okay.
Yes. So, and for that reason, we need to add the URL so that we can easily reference it. So if there are sub URLs in there, we need to change it. But then the easiest way now is to create a URL from scratch, right? So we just use the same pattern, we add a comma to it, we come down. We are creating a second URL, and this time we want our home route, so the slash, which is the root of the page, which takes us to here. We want to overwrite this from the default Django URL to what we want to show, right? So ideally, at the end, what we would want to show is we would have an app which is slash home, and then we have one which will have maybe slash map, and that will have a map interface,
Okay.
right? Yes. So for the slash, we want to override this, and with that, we need to come in with a path. So path indicates the URL path. There's a Django URL keyword import. So we say path. Inside the path, we want to say that when we don't put any forward slash or backslash or anything after the root directory, the root URL, it should take us to a different URL, right? And that URL, we want to name it. Is that a question? Okay, so we want to name the URL a different way. So the home URL is now going to be our app record, which is home. But mind you, we can't just do home and it will come. No, we need to find the home app, which is this. And to get that, we need to import it into this particular file. And that is how come and there are examples up here. So you can import it as a function-based view, which you import the views and then you add it as a URL pattern, or a class-based
Okay.
view. So you import it same way, and then you do as view to become a view. All right. So I want to import it using the function-based, just like how we normally do it. So from
From Django.
from the home app,
Okay.
right? So from home,
From
then
home.
we import. So from this home app, we want to import the views.py. So we
Okay.
import our views, but we don't add the .py to it because it's a Python application. It will automatically know it's a .py. So
Okay.
this is just the same as you using it in Anaconda or you scripting in Python. So if you're familiar with that, you can easily use this. So from here, the next thing we do is now we have our views here. So we do views dot, but we want this to be our index page, just like we had our index.html. So we can just call it our index. Then the next parameter for that is the name. So we can say index as a name. When you do it just like this, and you will need to come back and come and rerun your server. You notice it gives us an error. No module home.views. It says module home.views has no attributes index. So in this case, it means when we come into our views.py, we need to see something in there. In our views.py, you notice it has no attributes. It has no file or function or class called index. So we need to create that. And to do that, we did def, which is the definition. So you are defining a function. So define the function. The name has to match the same name that you called here, index. And in it, it takes a parameter. And that parameter has to be request. It is request. If you do requests, you are trying to call a different thing. It has to be request. And then you come in, indent your function, come in, and then write what you want to return. So we say we want to return. This time, by default, we have to return something. And normally we return an HTML template. But this time we don't have a template in there. So we want to return a response to show that we are working on it. So we say HTTP response. But this response object or method can be found in, so when you go from the Django, when you go in the Django.http, you can import the HTTP response. And this HTTP response object takes in whatever you want to display onto the screen. And I said, okay, so we can say, welcome to the home page. And we notice that we don't have any errors in here. Our server is running successfully. So we can go in the browser and then refresh. And we notice that now we've overwritten the default URL for Django, the default URL for the index page. Okay, so I think Gideon can put the URL to this. We've created the basic template we'll be using, and then we'll return that. So you can come in here. Either you do this, download it as a zip, or for my purpose right now, I'll just do it like this. Open the file here and then copy everything. So I'll just copy the raw file and rename it. So I copy this, and then I want this to be in a template. So in the home app, per Django's specification, so let me give a demo with what we have from our app. So with the Charcoal Portal app like this, you notice we have templates and then the name of the app again. Right. So a similar thing, if it is the name of the app is home, it will be templates/home. Just the same as the static. So we have the static / the name of the app. So we'll do a similar thing here. Inside this home app, we create a new folder called templates. And then inside that templates folder, we create a new folder with the same name as our app home. And then inside that, you can create index.html. So the reason why we normally do it this way, so you can just create a templates folder without the app name. So just say templates and then index.html. But if you have more than one app with the same index, so so if you look here, we have index in the Charcoal app. If we go back into the Galamsey app and then we pick we look at the templates too. We have another index in there. If you don't specify which particular index, if you don't specify the app like this and you just put it index, it might pick the wrong index, which you would not need. So to make it easier and effective, you just put the index for the right one. And inside here, I'll just put exactly what we had. Yes. Okay. Currently, we have this. So then, now we have a template. So we can now use the template version of this. So for the template, we use the render. So I'll take all this. Why can I not shift in? So we use return render. Render takes in 3 parameters. The first parameter is going to be your request, which is equal to your request. Second parameter is a template's name. That is going to be a string to where your template is located. So from the templates folder, it is located in home, and the name of the template is called index.html. The third parameter can be a context. So the context is equal to, can be an empty JSON object. Yeah. And with just this change, if I did everything correctly, yeah, now we have an error. So it says template does not exist. Let's template. Oh, I didn't add the app to our settings. So we need to register the app in the settings. I don't know if I did that. Hold on. We didn't. So,
Yeah.
so let me add the app, which is home.
So to add anything, you have to put first whatever you do in that folder to be integrated into this URL and to view it. So you have to register everything in the settings.
Yes, you need to register it in the settings.
Mm-hmm.
I keep using the other command. Try again. Okay. So notice now we have an app. Now our index page is being replaced by the HTML we just placed in there, but we have no styling attached to it. So just as I said earlier, we'll do the same thing. So we'll package this with its style. So we have our static, and then inside the static, we have the home. And then inside that, we create a new file and we name it style. Let me double check the naming. You would have this file, so you don't need to double check naming. You just have to make sure the file is correct. So styles.css. And I'll just copy everything in here. So I'll rename this to style. Yes. Style the CSS. Then paste everything here. Okay. We go back and refresh again, and we notice nothing has changed. Why? Because we are trying to reach something called style.css. And when we look at our server running, we notice that it says not found style.css. So we need to confirm from our index page. And in our index page, yes, we have styles.css. But then we notice we said it is home. So it's a static folder. So we go through the static folder, then the home folder before we get our styles. So give it a try again. And it will still not work. Oh, wait. Okay. Development, that's why. In production, it would not work. You need to add the static to the URL patterns before you would get the static files. So if you don't have the static URL added to the static patterns, you will never get it. So as it stands now we have this. We have the query 2, and then we have our form. Okay. Please, have you been able to download the code for day 2? So I just walk through quickly.
So here, in the like a combination of different apps, or let's say models in other terms, and I have to join them together and reflect with HTML file, and that HTML file also should to be in the static file, should to be introduced there, and to display what I want to that. Yeah.
Yes. So what we just did is just in one app, which is the home app.
Yeah.
And within the home app, we have the template, which is going to be our HTML. And then our static will be our JavaScript and our CSS and our images also. So if you have images, we add them there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the views is what will link the HTML, which is our template, to our model, which will be our database configuration.
So this CSS makes my web page more like good cosmetics, like the colors and everything to look
Yes.
better.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So remember I said yesterday that in our CSS, we can have it in the head of the CSS. So let me have this. I'm trying to zoom out a little. Okay. So you can have it in our head or have it in an external file, which this is our external file we did. And the external file is in static, home, and then styles of CSS. So we have our static, we have our home app, and then we have the style of CSS.
Any
Are we on the
questions I
same
want
page?
to ask? Yeah, I will open for the floor. Maybe as everyone understand the flows. Okay, Emmanuel, you can go ahead.
Okay, so I'll proceed.
Can you
Currently, Please come again, Gaba.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
Yeah. Again, Kenya. Hi, Kenya.
Yeah.
Can you come again? What do you say?
No. Just if everyone is understanding the workflow and how, I mean, do everyone get like me a general understanding? I'm talking about that. So if someone has a question, please. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm lost. Cyril, please don't be
Yeah,
lost. We
maybe
need you here.
Cyril. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe Cyril, it's because yesterday on HTML you weren't with us. Because I think this is the first step of, because the template depend of what you need to show on the website. So all what they bring in HTML index is mean that we already set up it to show what we need in terms of information to show on the website. The CSS is to make it style, the color, the size, and other information. So here, I think we moved HTML to come to Django for more specification or in terms of security. So I think maybe we will come to the other step to see a part of the template and the style of CSS, the other like admin app models and view their importance.
I think let Cyril ask maybe where he lost. Please.
Yeah, excuse me again. I think so. I don't think we can continue, and I will follow after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me go back and start again. So yesterday we went through creating a calendar, right? And we talked about
Yeah.
links, and then we talked about the URLs, the calendar codes and all that. So I'll create a different app again. This time, going step by step in the development flow we normally use. Okay, so we want to start creating a new app. This time, the name of the app we want to create. So the name of the app we want to create is Calendar. So just like what we did yesterday, Calendar. So we come in and say Python manage.py. So we have the intentions of creating a new app. So we say start app. And then the app's name is called Calendar. Once you hit enter, you will notice that it will create a folder with boilerplate code and files in there and attach it to our root app, our root project, which is the GeoPortal, our main GeoPortal folder, not the one internally. So once it adds it to that, it means we've created a Django Python packaged app. So I'll hit enter. Okay, it conflicts with another Python existing. Okay, so let me rename it and say GeoCalendar. You notice we have GeoCalendar here now. The GeoCalendar now has views, it has its models, it has its apps, it has the test, it has the admin, and then the init, which is the initialization. So the initialization.py makes the Python application know that it's a Python package. The admin is it gives you the capability of adding things and customizing whatever app you have within the Django admin backend. So for this, if you want to be able to access the Django backend, you access the content on this particular page through the Django admin page. You add it to the admin. The app is basically the name of the app for Django. So if we notice, when we go into the Geo portal and then we go into the settings.py file, we added the home app. That home app we added. So let me just do that. So we have this, we add a comma because it's an array and it shouldn't be two arrays together. It will give you an error. So you put in quotes, the name of the app. So when we come in here and we see apps, the name is Geo Calendar. So that is the name we are putting in the settings.py. If you don't have these apps in here, you would have to now come and put in the configuration file and all that. So we just copy this Geo Calendar. If I can copy from Mac to Windows. Okay, so then from here, we come into our settings.py and we add our app in here, Geo Calendar. So now we have registered it as part of our installed apps. So in our installed apps, every app we have, we add it to our installed app if we want to run it. So we have Geo Calendar installed now. But then there is no way to access it because we said the entry point for the application is through the URL. And then from the URL gives us access to the view, and the view will give us our template. And then also it will give us our model in case we are interacting with the database. So here we need to create the URL for it. But then when we go into our urls.py in the Geo portal, we notice that we imported it here. So that means that if we have multiple functions in our view, we'll have to import all of them individually. But if we don't want to do that. We want to include all our URLs within a particular app, so that in case I want to move my Geo Calendar app, so let me use the Galamsey portal or the Chaco portal, for instance. So the Chaco portal, notice that we have URLs in the Chaco portal, and it has the computing of the analysis, the data request, and then the map view. So if I just take, if I come in here and just zip all of this, I can just take all of this as a zip file, plug it into the app I have, install it in the installed app in settings, and then add a URL to it, and I'll be able to access it. A similar thing. So we want to add our URLs within this so that once we have it, every single function in our view, which we have multiples of them, every single function in here can be called separately, depending on what we are doing. And to do that, we need to add the urls.py into this. So as a normal practice we use here, we add a new file and call it urls.py. And this is in conjunction with this particular section of code. So we want to add another URL configuration to it. Okay. So from here, we have our new URLs.py, but then we need to configure it. So the first thing we do is we need to import it. So we want to import the URL. So from Django, I think it's Django.urls. Oh, yes, so from Django.urls. From Django.url import path. And then we do a similar thing like what we have in our URLs.py for the actual settings app. So we do URL patterns is equal to, we create a new array, and this time you see path is equal to, if we don't put anything in here, then map it to views, because we need to get our views, and then dot, what is the name of the view we want to say calendar view. I want to say calendar view, and then the name of the view would be calendar. So we say calendar hyphen view, or you can do an underscore. You can just say calendar. Oh. Okay. Notice with this, we will get an error because this URL is not being defined here. So we need to import it from here. So we say from dot, which is the current folder we are in, which is our geo calendar, from dot import our views. So we import our views. And this will get us our views in here. But when we come into our geocalendar views.py, we notice we have no views in here. And we said the views link the template and then also links the models. So we need to add our templates. So we create a new folder in here. We call it templates. And then we call it with the same name as that. So we say templates, and then we have the geo calendar. And then we have a folder here. So now we call a new file, which we call calendar.html. That gives us a calendar. Okay. So we can do the same thing we did yesterday with a simple boilerplate. And then I think I have to find a calendar code for yesterday. Yeah, I pushed it to my GitHub, I think. So and check for my GitHub. Okay. Did I push it? Okay, I think I did. Okay. Okay. So I'll just copy the raw file. I'll make sure I add this to the GitHub document. Okay. So I have inserted my HTML, which is my template. Now I need to link the template to the view. And with that said, I use a function. So I call it a function. The name of the view I gave it was calendar view. I can copy that, paste it here, take in my request, put in a semicolon, a colon, sorry, and then I do a return. Then I do a render. So I return rendering passing our request. So because this request is, we are assigning the request from here to the same place, we can either choose to do it like this or do what I did earlier, which is request is equal to request. But Django knows by default that the first parameter is the request. The second parameter is going to be the URL to the path to the template. So we say our path is from the template folder. And the reason why we change the names from the template folder, since we have templates here and we also have templates in the home, we change the name because Django will merge all the templates into one big folder, which will be named templates. So the name you attach to it, which is the app's name, makes it easier for you to find the file. So from the templates, and that is why we also don't add the templates here, because from templates folder, we go into Geo Calendar, and then from the Geo Calendar, we say calendar, which is the name of the HTML file here, calendar.html. You can choose to add the context or leave it out. It will still work. But if you want to pass data from the back end to the front end, you need to add the context. So I'll demonstrate that also. And then we'll utilize that in tomorrow's session when we are using the leaflet for the mapping interface. Okay, so currently I have done the URL in my app, the view in here, and then my template. I have all three here. And I have registered the app in my settings.py. But you notice, like if you were watching vigilantly, you will notice that I didn't add the import for the geo calendar. So I cannot access it. So I'll need to add it here. So let me give a demo on that. So let's say I do /calendar. It says it doesn't exist. Currently, what we have is just the index. We don't have anything matching calendar, so we need to add it. Although we have it in our other URLs for the calendar app, we need to add it into the calendar for the URLs for the projects. So we say path, and you need to add your trailing comma. Otherwise, you would have issues with it. So we say path. And this time we are using another configuration, which is the URLs in the geo calendar. So we say path, and then we call it a calendar. And we want to include the URLs from, so we include the URLs from our Geo Calendar app, which was named Geo Calendar when we were installing it in our settings.py. Then inside the Geo Calendar folder, we want to attach the URLs. Sorry. So we're attaching the URLs from the Geo Calendar. Notice it says name include is not defined. And we notice include here says we need to import the include function from our Django URLs. And we already have Django URLs here. So we say include. And our app is working now. So we come here and we can refresh. And we have our calendar back. Are we still confused, or this explanation is a little better?
So as a general step, Cyril can say also, what I have to follow is first, I have to do the app, I create the app, then I register it in my administration settings, and
Yeah.
I create URL, and then I go to the view and work with HTML and CSS. What you
Yes.
say?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
I think Cyril wanted to
Thank you.
talk.
So I think we can continue because from my part I have to to look at first the first the first session, and I think after that I could follow.
Okay. Okay. All right. So now we notice we have, if we put in the wrong URL, you notice we have 3 URLs in here. And depending on how your URLs are arranged, that is what we'll show here. So we have our admin here, admin. We have the default route, which is our index. And then we have the calendar URL, which is the calendar app. I'll try to put in I'll push an app onto the public GitHub. So this web training URL on the Celsius public GitHub, we'll put in a day 3. So okay, Gideon has added a day 1. So you can get the calendar from the URL. I think he placed the URL in the. I'm repasting it in here. If you want to access it from yours, so you can open it. You have day 1, you have day 2. So we'll add the day 3, and then the day 3 we'll create an app in there, which we'll all use. So the app name will be map. So if you want to try your hands on it before we start tomorrow's session, you can create. We'll use the same boilerplate from this. We'll use the same boilerplate from day 2, the index from day 2, but we'll now put it in a structured app called map. So if you want to give your hands, like you want to try your hands on it, you'll create an app, a Django app. So you start a new app called map, MAP. And then in there, you have a URL, which the name would be index, or you can say map view. And then from there, you would have a template with the same name app map. And then that will have the index we have now, just as we have here. Our index just like this. And then you can try your hands on taking off the borders with the CSS. So you can take off the borders from here, and then can try playing around with settings and stuff. So you can try and optimize it so that the line for this can come somewhere here, and then style it to your preference. And then before we start the session tomorrow, we'll look at what each and everyone was able to do, like a quick look at what everyone was able to do, and we'll encourage everyone to join the meeting as early as possible so that we can spend the initial first 15 to 30 minutes at debugging what we were able to do, and then we'll just proceed from there. So a recap again on what we did. We first created the virtual environment, activated the virtual environment. After activating the virtual environment, we created a Django project, which you only need to do once if you are starting a new project. If your project already exists, you don't need to start a new project. You don't use the Django admin. So after creating that, we navigated into the Geo portal, which is our project. And then we did the Python manage py Python manage.py run server. And that is what we use to get our database created, which this is our database, which is an SQLite 3, because that is what we have. That is what we have in our settings.py. That's our default database. Then we created a new app called Home. And in there, we added the home for our project. So we added a template. Then we added our static for our CSS. Then we created a view and linked the view to the template. We then further went into the Geo portal app, created the index, making that the URL for our home. So we didn't create a URL.py in our home app. We created it inside our project app. And then we imported our views from our home app and named it in here as index. From here, the next thing we did was to add the calendar we created from day one, which is our Geo calendar. Created a URL. We started a new app, Geo calendar, created a URL in here because that's the entry point. Created a views.py. And then we linked it with a template which we created from here, our calendar.html. After doing that, we registered it, which was the first step we did actually. We registered it inside our installed apps, which is the Geo calendar. And then we registered it in our URLs as a new URL called calendar. So tomorrow we will create a new URL. We'll create a new URL for our map app. So we'll create for our map app. We'll create the map app, and then we'll introduce ourselves to Leaflet.js, which is the mapping interface. So the mapping to JavaScript library we use. So we have open layers, and then there is also Leaflet.js. So Leaflet.js is what we use to generate our maps. So tomorrow, God willing, after the recap, we'll quickly introduce ourselves to this, and then we'll start using the leaflets together with the Django we've learned, and then set up our first map interface on our Geo portal. Thank you. Please, if there are any questions or any suggestions, can let us know, and then we'll assist.
Okay, thank you. We will share the support. Or we'll see before leaving if we can get it to share it so that people can train before tomorrow on that.
Okay, what we have now. Do you mean this?
Yeah, I mean what we do today. So
Okay,
Yeah, just push it. Since you
Mhm.
have the GitHub account, where Sergist or your I can send them your
It's in the search
GitHub
list.
accounts here. Please
It's in the
push
search
it
list.
and commit and push it, and tomorrow we'll follow you. You know, based on that, because everyone knows the step. Activation now. What we need is tomorrow, like activate it, and maybe if you create today the environment and the app is already there, so we can run from it tomorrow and we can follow you properly. Maybe if you push it, yeah.
Okay, I'm doing that. So
Great job. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
okay, thank you too.
So you will add this this code what you are doing is in your GitHub or where?
I'll put it in the Sergio's GitHub.
All
So
right.
the GitHub
All
that
right.
was shared. So Sergio's the web portal training. It's
Yeah,
public on
yeah,
the Sergio's GitHub. I
yeah,
think you shared
cool.
the URL.
Yeah,
You shared
I get.
you shared the severe portals one, so
Yeah,
you
it's
can
here.
just
It's
share.
here. It's here. Yeah,
The,
it's here already.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the chat, so everyone can get it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Good.
we'll place it in day 3 starter. So as we start day 3, we'll use that to start the day 3.
So tomorrow, just everyone, we can run from this what we see today directly, and we can go to the next level. Perhaps if we have sometimes let's read about the leaflet for our preparation, and we'll be more ready, and we can ask if we don't understand. So I think so. Let's get ready for tomorrow. Thank you, Manuel.
Okay. Thank you.
Wikipedia. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone.
Emily. Thank you for all the participants. So see you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye.